Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report. Dameon Nelson sitting here alongside the man they call Meathead. It's PWR Primetime for May 6, 2009. Thank you so much for joining us here on Time Warner Cable in southeastern Wisconsin, right after WWE SmackDown and at PWRshow.com. Meathead, last week, Backlash was the big topic. This week, we've got some very interesting discussion to have. Firstly, we talked last week about a release by WWE. That of superstar Billy Graham, who was released from his consulting contract where he was being paid approximately $500 a week. Well, the piece of that was very interesting was the WWE's claim to ownership of the name Superstar Billy Graham.
The WWE, I'm sorry to interrupt you, WWE assumes they own everything that's used of the word superstar. The word superstars are wrestling. Superstars of wrestling. You know, I do that to upset some in the Milwaukee area. Superstars of wrestling.
Well, WWE didn't own that one. Remember, they lost that. That's why it's just Superstars. So that's why it turned to just Superstars. But be that as it may, they claimed ownership to the name Superstar Billy Graham. Now, since then, they have retracted that and notified Graham that he does indeed own the rights to his wrestling name, and it was an error on their part. But the question, Meathead, that's out there, and we've talked about this in small pieces throughout the course of the time we've been on the air here, but
correct.
Ownership in the wrestling business. Talked about it just a minute ago, WWE thinking they own everything. Obviously, the talents are independent contractors, and many times you will see people come in, the latest, of course, being Evan Bourne, coming in under a fictitious name.
He wrestled to begin with, one match, as Matt Sydal.
And aside from a person's actual name, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall are great examples. Aside from a person's actual birth certificate name, with the name and the moniker that WWE gives a star is owned by World Wrestling Entertainment. So if that star chooses to go elsewhere, they can't take that with them. Now the question, Meathead, is as independent contractors, is this fair to the talents who sign the contract knowing that that is indeed going to be the case if they choose to pursue other interests?
It is fair. I'll give you a perfect example. Kurt Hennig. Both.
Mr. Perfect.
Mr. Perfect.
Absolutely perfect.
But that's a perfect example, if you will. Kurt Hennig, I mean, what is his real name, and what is the name that WWE used along with Mr. Perfect? Because they used that whole moniker, Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig, at one point. I mean, he wasn't Mr. Perfect because he was simply perfect. But WWE has all the right in the world to own that name. It's a character they develop. It's a marketable entity, that they own. They have all the right in the world. If they create this for you, they own that.
And obviously there's a great financial interest on the behalf of World Wrestling Entertainment.
Is
it not true?
It's an intellectual property.
Correct.
But just like Pro Wrestling Report, PWR, all those marks belong to Interactive Productions,
correct,
which is an intellectual property.
But the talent obviously invests quite a bit as well. And the talent, while they may not have a financial stake in that moniker that they're given, certainly have a physical and emotional stake in that character. It has been very rare that people have left World Wrestling Entertainment specifically, and we say WWE because WCW didn't do it as much as WWE does. TNA has done it in a couple of instances, but don't do it as frequently. And so that's why we're referencing WWE so much. But when they leave, it's rare that they're able to take that with them. The one person that truly beat the system was the Ultimate Warrior, who legally changed his name to Warrior, which allowed him to be able to keep that moniker. But look at Team 3D, the Dudley Boys. Not built by WWE.
Not even Bubba Ray and Devon.
Exactly.
Their brother Ray and brother Devon.
When they came in to WWE from ECW, they signed a contract which allowed WWE to then own the rights to that name.
Legally, that's why they were able to keep the name going from ECW to WWE, also because WWE was going to end up buying ECW anyway.
I went out and I bought my competition.
We knew that was going to happen. I mean, WWE was already a financial backer, so to say, in ECW. So,
still to come here on the show, we've got an interview with Abyss of TNA Wrestling. Abyss. This one is fantastic, Meathead. I got to say myself. And we'll have that just coming up in a few moments.
Would you call it phenomenal?
Thing. I'll have that in just a few moments here on the Pro Wrestling Report. But is it fair to the workers? Is it fair for someone like, let's say, for instance, a Triple H, not his real name. Let's say things go Bret Hart style, and he ends up leaving the company and goes somewhere else, probably
Bret
TNA.
Hart is still Bret Hart.
I mean, Bret Hart, who was never believed to leave WWE. I mean, Triple H, of course, no one's ever thinking Triple H is going to leave WWE, much like they did Bret Hart. That's the comparison there. Let's say he does leave, and he goes, well, he's Paul Levesque, or whatever his name is, and loses Triple H. And I can't sit here and believe that he doesn't own or have the rights, at least, to fight for that name. It's almost like, have you ever seen the movie What's Love Got to Do with It? The
Oh,
Tina Turner
yeah.
story?
I love that.
Love
that movie. Anime?
Find
your ass.
It's a little PWR secret. That's where that comes from, by the way.
Yeah.
But when they went through the whole divorce proceedings or whatever, she said nothing but my name. That's all she wanted to keep, nothing but my name. And I guess if you get into the legalities of things and whatnot, there could be people who would fight and may win. But
now, granted, Ike would have been able, who no longer with us, by the way, Ike could have fought. If that's all she wanted, she was willing to give up everything else. Ike could have said, you know what, still, that's my name.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about the movie, Lawrence Fishburne, a great role. I mean, he did an amazing
he was
job.
Nominated for an Oscar
yeah,
there.
did an amazing job.
But I just don't. I understand WWE's philosophy. I understand the talent's philosophy, because you look at the impact, the negative impact that it may have. You look at when Team 3D came over to TNA, they were still the Dudley Boys, with everything but the name that they were referenced. Kip James, BG James, the Road Dogg Jesse James, and Billy Gunn. Can't use that anymore. So, when it diminishes the value of that talent to farm themselves out to other organizations or whatnot. Now, here's the comparison I'd like to use.
Go by your real name then.
And Kevin Nash and Scott Hall did that. Why? Because when they left WWE, they couldn't be Diesel and they couldn't be Razor Ramon. But it has proved to be tremendously successful for the both of them. And when we had Kevin Nash on the Pro Wrestling Report on ESPN Radio, we spoke to him about this point specifically. So make sure you check that out in the archives at pwrshow.com.
Matter of fact, there's also another Hall and Nash apparently in the works.
I'm sorry?
According to Kevin Nash, if ever the kids are in desperate need of money, you can go right to New York and say there's a Hall and Nash tag team ready to work.
Obviously, this doesn't happen in other sports. The National Football
Remember,
League.
because wrestling's not a sport.
By
wrestling
your
is an
definition.
entertainment.
By my definition,
wrestling is no. Wrestling's an entertainment company.
Sports entertainment.
All of them are entertainment companies. They're athletic
but what if the
entertainment.
NFL
But I
or
don't
the
want
NHL or the Major League
Those are
Baseball or
real-
the NBA did this?
those are
What
real
if they
sports.
did this? What if someone went from one team to another?
They can't, because nobody goes by a moniker.
Oh, exactly. But theoretically or hypothetically, if it were to be the case, would it then become more accepted and more standard across the board, or would it be
He
still
hate me
big
is
bad
still allowed to
WWE?
be. He hate me.
Mhm. From the XFL,
A defunct football organization,
founded by WWE in 2001.
founded and defunct in
In
2001.
2002.
Yeah.
Ass. I'm intrigued by what the viewers and what the listeners have to say pertaining to this point. It's something that's been debated for a very long while. A lot of people have been, I think it affects the livelihood of stars, and WWE in essence, holds people hostage.
No.
In essence, let's say you, Meathead, not your real name, Chad. Let's say, Meathead, you are contracted to WWE.
I'm contracted to Interactive Productions right now.
You choose to go somewhere else, but you've got to be Chad when you go wherever else you go.
That's okay, because Chad will get me over too.
No,
This
not at all. Chad has
gets
a
me
diminished
over.
value.
No, this
Chad
gets
would have
me
a
over.
diminished value. It would not be
This
valuable.
gets me over.
So let's say, for instance, Triple H, again, that situation. Triple H goes to TNA.
How much talent does a person really have if it's the name that makes them the money?
But here's the example. Triple H goes to TNA. TNA tries to promote the event. Paul Levesque is coming to TNA. Who knows what that means?
Wrestling fans. Remember,
No,
we're
not at
smart. We're smart wrestling
Many
fans.
are,
so-
but most won't.
but that's
most
enough.
won't.
It's enough.
I don't think so. I mean, Trevor Murdoch just came into TNA, got a new name. I forget his name. So TNA, of course, is doing it in some instances, which is smart on their part as well, because it's a smart business plan. As Kevin Nash said on this very program, Vince McMahon is a very smart businessman. And you can't fault them for that, because it's well within their rights. But again, as recently referenced again by Vince McMahon on the WWE earnings video, they're independent contractors. WWE provides a lot more than they have to to these independent contractors, and it's mutually beneficial for WWE to succeed and for that individual to succeed. So, on paper, it's a great deal for everybody. But the problem comes when you want to spread your wings.
I think you're really making a valiant effort for the boys, Dameon. They appreciate it. I hope the boys realize that I'm trying to be realistic. Come up with something that maybe even, go by your name. They can give you a moniker in WWE, but go by your name. Matt Sydal, obviously not his real name either. But, Evan Bourne's working for him, but he made a name on the independent circuit as Matt Sydal.
But all of it, too, is how can you market Matt Sydal? And is it easier to market Evan Bourne? Airborne, all this other stuff. I mean, it's a business decision. It's a smart play. But again, I'm intrigued by what you guys have to say about this. Send us a comment to comments@pwrshow.com or discuss it on the forum at pwrshow.com. Your comments may indeed make air. Meathead, let's go now to the news desk and talk about some of the news coming out of the business this week. Necro Butcher of Ring of Honor Wrestling has been nominated for a WTF Moment Award on the MTV Movie Awards.
What does WTF stand for?
For his role in the movie The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. Those awards are scheduled to air at the end of this month on the MTV network. MTV, which stands for Music Television. Bret Hart will make an appearance at a Ring of Honor show in Toronto on July 24th. For those who don't know, Ric Flair also working for the Federation. July 24th.
That's a national holiday here in Milwaukee.
It's a national holiday here in Milwaukee.
I celebrate it nationally because that is the man they call Meathead's birthday.
Well, Bret Hart's going to be celebrating with Ring of Honor in Toronto. He's going to be doing autographs and will have a role during the show as well. And Meathead, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is one of the few wrestling appearances he made since his departure from WCW, as far as wrestling goes, not counting a Hall of Fame. As far as wrestling goes,
because when Vince was blown up in a limo, Bret Hart was on camera a week later.
Oh, well, as far
Fail.
He's not wrestling, but as far as being a part of a wrestling show.
Part of a wrestling
Let's
angle.
get back to the news desk.
Part of a wrestling angle.
Roxy.
Don't deny that you're wrong.
Tick-tock. I'm not wrong, ever. Roxy Laveau has been released from TNA Wrestling. It appears as if she asked for her release and was granted it after a 60-day suspension was levied against her and Raka Khan after a backstage altercation after a match where one of the other alleged the other of being stiff in the match.
Well, Raka Khan would be the one I would think that would be stiff more than Roxy, only because, have you seen Raka Khan?
There may be interest in Lance Cade by TNA Wrestling. Lance Cade, obviously trained by Shawn Michaels, and has been released from WWE recently.
He's got a good look. I really think that Lance Cade could have won somewhere and still can go somewhere.
Hernandez, who was on this very program just last week, and the radio program, has suffered a neck injury. He's going to be out for 6 to 9 months. Apparently this injury happened right around the time we conducted the interview. And just to put it in perspective, I did ask Hernandez about his fears of injury.
You are the new Madden curse.
About his fears of injury. So let's take a look now at that clip from that interview, Meathead. Hernandez talking about his injuries in wrestling.
Things that we see, some of the things I see that you guys perform in that ring, just absolutely amazing. Do you ever worry about injury? Do you ever worry about, will this be that last big move?
No. I mean, basically, like I said, there's not a lot of Latinos in wrestling as it is. So we want to make our mark hard and strong. You see every other persuasion, African Americans, whites, Asian Americans. You hardly ever see any, Latinos. So we want our chance. We're on the other side. It's like our motto: to live and die in LAX.
Hernandez of TNA Wrestling, just on this program last week. Again, we've got Abyss coming up in a few minutes right here on this program as well, talking about injuries. And at that time, I'm not sure if he knew the severity of his neck injury. Again, this was right before this injury was announced and released. And
that would explain being laid out on Impact by...
that's exactly why, yeah. And that
the
happened
British
the day
invasion.
after this interview.
The British invasion, I believe, is what they're calling it.
Much better, though. Thank Lord they changed that Brutus Magnus thing. Very smart. So, again, our best wishes go out to Hernandez. We'll try to get some words with him over the course of the next few weeks as he nurses that injury to find out when he's going to be able to get back into the ring. Speaking of injuries, a lot of them going on, ladies and gentlemen. The Undertaker may need hip and knee surgery.
And crutches.
This is a big blow to WWE. Some say the reason you saw CM Punk and John Morrison get such a prominent role on SmackDown last week, and we talked in depth on the ESPN radio show this week about SmackDown because there's a lot of buzz, Meathead, about this past Friday's SmackDown and going forward. So make sure you check that out.
From who?
The IWC.
Oh, boy.
Unknown how serious the injury is and how long he may be out. Now, here's the thing about The Undertaker. He's never, in a very long time, it's been a very long time, rather, since he's been a regular fixture on SmackDown. He's always in and out and sort of used sporadically, which is fine. It works for him. It works for the brand. But this could be a pretty big blow, especially with the Rest in Peace tour coming up in the fall that's been announced by WWE.
The Rest in Peace tour, I guess, meaning that Undertaker is supposed to be retiring.
That's what the speculation is.
That's how the IWC will take it. It doesn't mean anything. Undertaker will keep going. Undertaker likes what he does for a living, folks.
Yeah, but the time will come for him to walk away from the business.
When he chooses.
Exactly.
He likes what he does. He's very well respected in there. He's still somewhat decent at what he does. And by the way, we're not Undertaker haters.
Did you see that match at WrestleMania 25?
Yeah, he can go in spots. I mean, he can really go. But Undertaker can't work a regular schedule.
Many of you may have been wondering where Shawn Michaels has been. He asked for some time off after WrestleMania. 2 nurses ailing knees. Shawn Michaels as well, getting up there in age. Unsure how long he's going to continue this, but again, part of our SmackDown discussion on the radio show this past Monday was the new stars that they're building in WWE, and it looks like they're going to have to accelerate that a bit.
Who are they building?
This past Monday night?
Who are they building?
Well, obviously, like we saw last week on SmackDown, John Morrison getting a pretty big push. CM Punk getting a pretty big push. Obviously, you've got the Edges who are younger but still have been around a long time. So, again, don't want to beat that dead horse. But let's continue along the news desk. Batista is in the corner of Manny Pacquiao?
Pacquiao.
Him.
The Pac-Man.
At the fight this past weekend. And
that's a sport.
Boxing?
Oh, yeah.
Boxing is, what was that, 2 rounds they went?
Pacquiao whooped his ass. Excuse me. Ricky Hatton, excuse me. I like Ricky, don't get me wrong, but Pacquiao whooped him.
Batista has also announced that he is considering retirement when his contract expires in the next 12 months. The ratings for last week, Meathead. Not this past Monday, but the prior Monday's Raw got a 3.4 rating. TNA getting a 1.2 rating. SmackDown 2.0, up from its basement bottom 1.6. The prior week, rather. ECW with a 1.17 and Superstars with a 0.9. WWE has canceled its Mexico tour due to the swine flu outbreak. It was scheduled for later this month. And to all of you who are overreacting to the swine flu business, thank you. I'm sure CNN, rather, and Fox News and all the news channels would like to thank you for your hysteria. And here's the important point.
Here we go.
No, it's not a soapbox. It's a fact. 19,000 people so far this year have died from the regular flu in the United States. Nobody has died from swine flu in the United States, and there's all this hysteria over it. It's just funny how the sheep will just follow whatever the... It's like duct tape after 9/11. It's like water before a hurricane. You know,
it's like duct tape after 9/11?
Remember there was a run on duct tape? Because
Yeah.
Because they said, go get duct tape. Anyways, that tour has been canceled. It looks to be getting rescheduled for later in the year. ECW moves to its new time slot, or moved to its new time slot
Which
last
is its
night.
old time
Exactly. Later on the Sci-Fi Dial. And as we told you at pwrshow.com last week, sad news from the wrestling business as Buddy Rose, Playboy Buddy Rose, passed away of natural causes in his home last week.
He'll be missed.
Let's go now to the feature for this week, Meathead, and it is our interview with Abyss. Now, Abyss, there's a lot you don't know about Chris Parks, and I'm not going to spoil it, but this was really one of the most fun interviews that I had the opportunity to do. And without further ado, let's just go to it. Abyss, now on the Pro Wrestling Report. Dameon Nelson here with the Monster Abyss.
Oh, Dameon, thank you for having me on. It's such a pleasure. I don't get to get out very much. Dr. Stevie doesn't let me out of the treatment center very often, so today's a very special day for me.
Well, thanks for coming on. I'm thanking Dr. Stevie as well, but what's going on there? How's your treatment going? Dr. Stevie's
so many problems. I don't know where to begin. He doesn't want me to use weapons, and then he does, and then he wants me to be aggressive and not. I'm very confused right now. I might need a new doctor. Dameon, I might need a referral from you and a good doctor that I could go see.
I know several good shrinks.
Oh, good. Well, I might need one here pretty soon, the way things are going.
So, your favorite weapons. So what if Dr. Stevie won't let you use them, but
favorite weapons? We've seen thumbtacks. We've seen hell.
babies.
If I would go down the whole list, kitchen sink, everything. We've seen everything used for you, including like actual glass.
Yes,
back
I
at
love
lockdown.
glass. It's so shiny, and you can pick it up, and the light just glares off, and I just love it.
It's sort of sharp.
It's sort of sharp. It can cause some damage, as you can see right here. It's caused some damage in the past, and very recently, this past week at lockdown. I love glass. I love the thumbtacks. It's such an exhilarating feeling.
Exhilarating. That's gotta sting.
Oh, Dameon, you should try it sometime. I got a
No,
bag.
no,
Get a
thank
bag
you.
if
No,
you
thank
like
you.
it.
Actually, I did it earlier, and that's,
Really?
yeah,
How'd you like it?
I didn't like it so much at all.
I love it. I
Had to go
love
to the
it.
local hospital here. Now, I understand that you know a couple of people who a lot of people are very follow quite a bit, which is the characters of Family Guy. We asked Booker T. We did an interview with him. We asked him about Stewie Griffin. He said he didn't know him. Now, I'm
Stewie's-
sorry. I probably shouldn't tell you that.
No, not at all. I can't believe that Booker T wouldn't know who Stewie is. My goodness, Stewie's such a good little boy. His head looks like a football, but other than that, he's so nice.
He
But
got
the
hit
rest
from
of
the ceiling at one
I think so. Yeah, but the whole family. I'll tell you what. With Peter, he's such a hero of mine, and Louise, and everybody else there. And the Drunken Clam just happens to be one of my favorite locations.
You've
to
been there, I
stop at.
understand.
Oh my God, I go there all the time with Peter, and everybody knows that Quagmire is the man. I kind of like Quagmire. He reminds me of my alter ego, what I would be like if I wasn't the monster abyss.
Giggity.
Giggity, giggity, giggity.
Word association.
Okay,
I
this
say
is my
a name
favorite.
or an event, and you tell me the first thing that pops into your head.
Okay, this might take a while. But
That's fine.
all right.
Hillary Clinton.
Is this a family show? Or?
No, not at all.
Hillary Clinton. Gutsy. I would say gutsy.
Okay.
I'm being nice here. I don't want to be put on a no terror watch list or anything like that.
Smart man. Very smart man.
Ooh, yeah.
Howard Stern.
Howard Stern, innovative, and the man on radio, the man, I would say.
Lisa Lampanelli. Have you heard of her?
Ooh, Lisa Lampanelli, I just actually saw her do her comedy act in Cincinnati, Ohio, there when Dr. Stevie was transferring me from clinic to clinic. Lisa Lampanelli,
It's got to be good.
disgraceful. It would probably be the word I would use, disgraceful.
It's a perfect word, actually.
Yeah, she's nowhere near as pretty as my girlfriend Lauren either, I'll tell you what. My goodness.
Lauren.
Lauren, the announcer here, Lauren.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh man, I'm hot. She makes my heart just rumble.
Okay. So that's not all that's rumbling, but be that as
Oh
it may.
yes, yes. This is a family show, Dameon.
No, I said it wasn't
Oh,
before.
it's not a
We're
family
just
show.
talking
Okay.
about Lisa Lampanelli.
Then let's go ahead and
It's a
talk
family
about it. Yes, sir. All right, that sounds great.
Bound for Glory.
Bound for Glory. The signature pay-per-view event of the year for TNA Wrestling. Definitely the signature event of the year for TNA Wrestling.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
That's where we're from. That's where this is airing.
I would say Miller.
Yeah,
I would say Miller Lite, definitely, yes.
Are you a Miller Lite or
Monster
MGD
Abyss.
guy?
I'm not, I'm more of a Miller Lite guy. You know, I'm watching my figure and all. When you have a girlfriend like Lauren, you have to make sure you stay in good shape.
All right, let's go through some more names. And obviously one of the biggest names in wrestling, Ric Flair.
Wow. A legend, period.
Another one of the biggest names in wrestling, Hulk Hogan.
I would say, it's hard to put it in one word, I would say the man that changed wrestling. One of the men that changed wrestling and made it into a mainstream entertainment sport for fans around the world to watch.
Matt Morgan.
Oh, you had to bring that name up.
Sorry.
I would say an incredible athlete, but I'm going to get him one day. Can I punch that camera?
Not the camera,
Okay, well,
but
I'm not
I
gonna do
think
that
Matt
then,
might be
but-
around here somewhere.
Well, if I can find Matt, we can replace the camera and put Matt right there, and I'll be happy to hit him.
Hardcore wrestling. It's not something TNA has actually defined, but it is something that you have certainly been a part of for a while here in TNA. Some of the things that you have done have just been simply amazing, and the torture that you put your body through. How the heck do you deal with the cuts, the bruises, the lacerations on a regular
Gosh,
basis?
I don't know. I would just say that, you know, it's definitely a certain mindset, and I'm not the most stable person in the world to begin with, so that's one reason. The other reason is just the emotion that it invokes from fans and from everybody attending the show, and also too, I think it's just because I snap when I get in the ring, and
we're
this
not in
kind
the
of
ring
stuff. It's a good thing for
me,
you we're
yeah.
not in the ring. I kind of like you though, Dameon. I wouldn't put you into the touch of the glass. I would just put you through a
Thank you.
table or something.
All right. Does TNA need a hardcore division, in your opinion of this?
Wow, good question.
Well, not need. Should there be a hardcore division?
I personally am. I believe that there should be a hardcore division. I know that TNA Wrestling has the signature match of hardcore wrestling called the Monsters Ball that we do once a year, every year, usually at Bound for Glory, our biggest pay-per-view of the year. And I truly think that that is the signature match of hardcore wrestling and all of pro wrestling, in my opinion.
I was at Bound for Glory in Chicago last year. I remember that match, and I remember that was actually the word I used when it was done. Wow. I mean, just an amazing display of not just hardcore, but wrestling as well.
Absolutely.
And that's what's been missing, I think, in the past from a lot of hardcore divisions.
I couldn't agree with you more, Dameon. People don't realize, even wrestlers sometimes, hardcore wrestling does not mean just hardcore. Hardcore wrestling is an art just like any other form of wrestling is. And to be able to incorporate a hardcore instrument here and there, along with making the match a good wrestling match. That's what's important. People want to see good wrestling, but when you can sprinkle in that hardcore over the top, well, it makes for a great wrestling.
It's like a thumbtack cake, huh?
Yeah, thumbtack cake with little glasses trimming around the sides would be very good.
If you had a crystal ball or a magic 8-ball, 3 years from now, total nonstop action wrestling, where will it be?
It'll be in the stratosphere, because that's exactly where TNA Wrestling is going. We are breaking out every week. It's amazing. The Monster Abyss has had the honor and the privilege to be here since basically the beginning, and has seen the growth everywhere from our television to our pay-per-views, to our merchandise, to our talent, to our office, to our front office staff. It's amazing. TNA Wrestling is going to do nothing but keep going through the moon, up to the moon this coming year and years to come. I dare to say within 3 years, TNA Wrestling will be the leader in sports entertainment and professional wrestling in the world.
And I'm sure you, Abyss, the monster, will play a huge role in that.
I certainly plan on it, no doubt about it. I love beating people up anyway, and TNA Wrestling lets me do it all right here, so where else would I want to go? I get to do it all right here.
That's a good point. Abyss, thank you for your time. Thank you for tuning in here to the Pro Wrestling Report on Time Warner Cable and 540 ESPN.
This right here. How's that feel?
That's a very special boy. His mama must be proud.
He choked me out.
I'd like to choke you.
I got a no bump clause in my contract.
No, you don't. You've taken chairs. I think you've taken tables.
I'm not taking a chair.
You've taken.
There might have been a chair on the table. Forget.
Frank is the one.
I'm hardcore, you know.
Frank, yeah, we don't know what kind of hardcore you do.
Abyss here on the Pro Wrestling Report. You put that on top of Hernandez last week. Coming up over the course of the next few weeks, we got a couple more interviews. Dawn Marie this past Monday night.
Dawn Marie,
was
wow.
scheduled to appear at ESPN Radio. The stars continue to come to Pro Wrestling Report. Is Dawn Marie? Does she work for TNA? Because that'll be, we get hate because all we do is do TNA interviews. I will say this publicly: if World Wrestling Entertainment would grant anybody an interview, we'd happily do it. But they
you can even start us off
with
Florida Championship Wrestling.
We're not begging. I ain't holding their sack trying to get an interview.
Do what you gotta do.
We don't need them. Let me just say that publicly. Now
you're an E-hater.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
Shoot. Thank you so much, Abyss, for spending some time on the show here. And let's talk now, Meathead, about celebrities in professional wrestling. There's been a lot of controversy over the use of celebrities, specifically by TNA, over the course of the last few months. And let's go down the list of some of the people they've used since their inception.
Okay.
Chris Rock was a part of a show.
Toby Keith.
Johnny Fairplay, Toby Keith, Danny Bonaducci.
Brian Urlacher.
The
Jeff
football player
Hammond.
who
Jeff
whose name
Hammond
escapes me right now.
Jeff Hammond from NASCAR. Jeff Hammond actually was an interviewer and did whatchamacallit, color commentary.
Bernie Sandler. He's got a stake in the company, I believe, as well. So that makes some
You've
sense.
also got Frank Trigg.
Mm-hmm. Jenna Morosco, obviously, the latest. Danny Bonaducci. So many names that they're bringing in. We heard that they had attempted to
Pac-Man
contact
Jones.
Vanilla Ice. Yes, Adam Pac-Man Jones.
Former tag team champion.
Now they're in talks with...
They're contacting Vanilla Ice? Is that what you just said?
I believe that was said to have potentially happened. Rob Van Winkle.
Wow.
What's wrong with that? I've met Rob.
Why?
Come on, don't you sit there and pretend like in 1989, 90, and 91, you were not sliding around on the dance floor at the skating rink to Ice Ice Baby. You were. That's okay. You probably played it, too, when you were spinning.
That was a joke at Romines when we used to have the jukebox there. That song was #1 on the list because the owner never cleared the top 20 list. And when you would hit popular, he would let that play over and over.
There ain't a person watching who was around at that time. Who didn't like Vanilla Ice?
You guys all liked Vanilla
Yeah,
Ice, especially when he
everybody
did his turtle rap in
You know, I
Teenage
this is
Mutant Ninja Turtles. 2.
Ninja rap. Remember that? Was that the same one where they referenced WrestleMania?
You know Kevin Nash was in that movie.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
He was one of the turtles.
No, he was not.
No, he was one of the bad guys.
He was one
I
of the
take
turtles.
I believe he was
Turtle.
Shredder. I believe he was Shredder. He was one of the bad guys. Tangent.
Now
Back.
they're in talks with Spencer Pratt from the
Who?
MTV show The Hills. I don't watch
The what?
this show, but I guess he's one of the most hated people on television.
Lauren something was on Family Guy this week.
Lauren from TNA Wrestling?
No, Lauren from the Hills.
Lauren Bacall?
No, she made out with the dog.
Brian?
Yes. I mean, we're talking Abyss about Family Guy and Quagmire and the Bearded Clam or whatever bar they go to, and
Leaving that one there. Those are some of the names that TNA has worked with in the past. Now, WCW, WWE have done the same thing. And next week, Meathead, we're actually going to bring our top 10 use of wrestling, of celebrities in wrestling. Top 10
top
names.
10 best use or top 10 overall use?
10 best uses of celebrities in professional wrestling.
Okay.
That's next week right here on the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. But David Arquette, he is a
Former world heavyweight champion.
no, let's
Say
say
that
it
for
properly.
radio. Yeah.
He is a former WCW champion.
World heavyweight champion.
No, he is a former WCW
The champion in WCW was referred to as the world heavyweight
that
champion.
belt goes back to 1905, and David Arquette should not be a name on that list of people who have held it.
If you're going to
That's all I'm
refer to the
saying.
person that's held that belt, the belt is referred to as the WCW World Heavyweight Champion.
Mike Tyson, Regis Philbin, Pamela Anderson. I mean,
Ben Stiller.
The names are all
Jenny
over the
McCarthy.
place as far as celebrities that have been used. Dennis Rodman, who
Liberace.
TNA has apparently spoken to as well.
Billy
He's
Martin.
in rehab. Here's the question, Meathead. Should TNA be spending money on the Jenna Marascas of the world? Should they be spending money on celebrities to try to draw, which was what WCW did extremely well, especially when they used Jay Leno, to draw in those mainstream fans to recognize the product?
Karl Malone. Rodman.
Said that, but
Kevin
the question
Green.
that's on the table is
Reggie White.
this a smart use of funds by TNA?
It's okay, because you know what? Their ratings are, even though, again, I don't buy into the ratings thing.
Well,
It's
unless you
about
have what Raw has,
business.
you don't exist.
Right, it's
according to the
about
world out there.
business. So you have to spend money to make money. But they'll hate. The IWC will
Well,
hate.
but I mean, it's been done, and it seems like a lot of criticism has been levied on TNA by myself specifically about using some of these stars, because what did Danny Bonaducci do for Lockdown? I think they used them smartly on the pre-show, which they did a great job at the pre-show, by the way. But what did he really do? Did he bring more buys in?
How
Now,
could Danny
keep in mind,
Bonaducci?
he's on the radio in Philadelphia, so he potentially sold some tickets. Which
But how
be
could
smart.
Danny Bonaducci give you more buys at the pay-per-view if he's only on the pre-show? Because you get that
Well,
for free.
Exactly. I think they did it more as a local play. Because
As a local play. Just like a Mancow versus Jimmy Hart in a wrestling match.
Which we never saw on TV, though.
But it happened 3 times. Jimmy Hart was even on commercials during Nitro during that time saying, "You got a local DJ, I'll wrestle you." Jimmy Hart did that.
So I guess we both agree that it is a smart move, but they got to be smart with it and spend the right money doing it, which is But again, however much Mike Tyson got paid, however much Floyd Mayweather got paid, you got to look at the cost
Master P
benefit analysis.
and the No Talent Soldiers.
Ooh, yeah, I had forgotten about that. Rap is crap, I think. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of this journey this week. PWR Prime Time. We will return next week with a brand new episode. It's the 10 best uses of celebrities in wrestling, right here on the Pro Wrestling Report. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on the Pro Wrestling Report.